Welcome back. The country's economic outlook for the next 3 years will be revealed tomorrow in the new Finance Minister's first medium-term budget speech. Nhlanhla Nene is expected to announce some spending cuts because economic growth isn't as high as government predicted in February. So will Nene strike the right note, and how will government rein in its growing debt? Joining me now is economist Chris Hart to tell us more. Chris, a very good morning to you. Thank you for your time. Will Nhlanhla Nene be under lots of pressure when he does this, his first medium-term budget speech?
Well, he has to. The expenditure trajectory already is on a path that's going to take us to more credit rating downgrades and ultimately to a sovereign bankruptcy if we don't rein in that expenditure. The problem that he also faces is that the tax base is exhausted. You know, we talk about a twin deficit problem, which is why South Africa is in the fragile five, which I know annoys them as well when you call it the fragile five. But we actually have a third deficit, and that's in the households. We have a triple deficit. And this is where I'm going to be quite interested to see, are they going to try and raise taxes to close the deficit? In other words, just transfer their deficit onto households, which means that the government actually sees themselves as an end in themselves. They're not serving us, they're attacking us to actually gouge taxes from us. We need to actually look at this triple deficit and hold hands together and see how we can actually close those deficits together. It doesn't help just by shifting one to the other. We also need to sort our growth problem out, which means that we have to actually start cutting back or even eliminating the taxes that are doing damage to our growth. In other words, taxes that target investment viability and capital formation, or in layman's terms, the savings. Yeah. All right, if we don't do that, we're going to continue in this negative spiral. We're in a stagflation problem. So stagflation is high inflation with low growth that is persisting. Okay, and we've been in this for now a few years as growth has gone down and inflation has gone up. Yeah. And we need to curb inflation, which is been led by administered prices, all right, and that's your ESCOMs and your municipalities. That needs to be curbed. At the same time, we need to actually boost growth. And that means usually the best boost to growth is tax cuts. And the inflation is also being driven by the triple deficit with the current account. So that's why we need to actually curb. We're consuming more than what we're producing.
When we talk about spending cuts, where are we talking about?
Well, this is it. The biggest expenditure item is the public sector wage bill. Okay, but there's other. Besides that being on an unsustainable trajectory, that'll take us into bankruptcy alone. Okay, but there's another big thing percolating behind that, and that's national health insurance. Yeah. Provident Gordon sort of kept that quite low key in the last few, but that's percolating below. And then there's the nuclear program, which is an expenditure bomb, which will almost definitely, each one of them will take us into bankruptcy if we're not if we're not careful. We just need to, what we need to do is actually hold our horses, consolidate, repair the balance sheets, and then carry on.
How long does something like that take to do? I mean, this looks 3 years ahead.
Well, this is the point. If we pare back the taxes that damage growth, for instance, and shift them to more consumption so that you can get a bit of a change of behavior, or at least have an incentivize that, it can actually repair quite quickly, because if inflation comes down and growth goes up, we actually
quite quickly, as in months?
No, in the next 2-3 years. We can actually fix it relatively quickly, but we need to actually get that growth going.
ESCOM, I mean, you did touch on ESCOM very briefly earlier, Chris. What are we expecting him to say about ESCOM? It is a bugbear for government at the moment.
Well, if you like, that's the fourth expenditure bomb. In other words, the sheer demands that the state-owned enterprises have. When we're capital deficient and these wonderful spending plans, the government doesn't have enough money to actually capitalise ESCOM and Transnet, etc. So what do? We can't keep on raising tariffs. You're killing the economy as well. So we need to actually find a way of capitalising ESCOM properly, and a partial privatisation I think would make sense. It's not that the government's losing control. You're actually starting to bring in private capital into Eskom and Transnet, etc. List them, it'll help draw investment into the country in any case, and at least get a more efficient capital structure, and hopefully, because you've got now private capital there, you'll start looking at operational efficiencies and procurement efficiency. Medupi is an absolute disgrace in the sense that it's such a big expenditure overrun, and that's also sapping resources. When you've got that, you've got dead capital, because something else in the economy didn't happen because of those resources that are transferred to that inefficiency.
We'll find out in his first medium-term budget speech. That was economist Chris Hart. Thank you.